It's really great to see everybody on this beautiful, beautiful day in Washington, D.C. Some people say the swamp, but I will not say that today. I refuse. This is too important, what we're doing, one of the most important deals. I'm thrilled to speak to the American people to share truly historic news for our nation and indeed for the world. I want to thank Vice President Pence for joining us this morning. It's my great honor to announce that we have successfully completed negotiations on a brand new deal to terminate and replace NAFTA and the NAFTA trade agreements with an incredible new US-Mexico-Canada agreement called USMCA. It sort of just works. MCA. USMCA. And that'll be the name, I guess, that 99% of the time we'll be hearing. USMCA. Has a good ring to it. I have long contended that NAFTA was perhaps the worst trade deal ever made. Since NAFTA's adoption, the United States racked up trade deficits totaling more than $2 trillion. And it's a much higher number than that. With Canada and Mexico, it lost vast amounts of money and lost 4.1 million manufacturing jobs and 1 in 4 auto jobs. Lost about 25% of our auto jobs, even more than that. Throughout the campaign, I promised to renegotiate NAFTA, and today we have kept that promise. But for 25 years as a civilian, as a businessman, I used to say, how could anybody have signed a deal like NAFTA? And I watched New England and so many other places where I was, just the factories were leaving, the jobs were leaving, people were being fired, and we can't have that. So we have negotiated this new agreement based on the principle of fairness and reciprocity. To me, it's the most important word in trade because we've been treated so unfairly by so many nations all over the world, and we're changing that. We just signed a much better deal with South Korea. We had a horrible, horrible deal, and we just signed that at United Nations, and that's worked out well, and they're happy, we're happy. It's good for jobs, good for a lot of things. When that deal was signed, they said 250,000 jobs will be given by signing this transaction, and they were right. I've said it before, they were right. 250,000 jobs to South Korea, not to the United States. So that's changed, and very much for the better, and this one is a brand new deal. The agreement will govern nearly $1.2 trillion in trade, which makes it the biggest trade deal in the United States history. I want to congratulate U.S. Trade Representative Bob Lighthizer, who has worked. Nobody understands how hard he's worked. This is a terrific deal for all of us. Once approved by Congress, this new deal will be the most modern, up-to-date, and balanced trade agreement in the history of our country, with the most advanced protections for workers ever developed. If you look at the reviews, people that would normally not under any circumstances say good things because automatically they have to say bad. Even some Democrats say that's amazing. We had some, they haven't been given the sound bites yet, I guess, Mike. But actually you had some Democrats say this is really amazing if he really got all of that. But by tomorrow I would suspect they'll change their tune. But that's okay because people know how good it is. It's an amazing deal for a lot of people. Likewise, it will be the most advanced trade deal in the world with ambitious provisions on the digital economy, patents, very important, financial services and other areas where the United States has a strong competitive advantage. Mexico and Canada have agreed to strong new labor protections, environmental protections, and new protections for intellectual property. So important. This new deal is an especially great victory for our farmers. Our farmers have gone through a lot over the last 15 years. They've been taken advantage of by everybody. Prices have gone way down. And we're working on some other deals that are going to make them very happy also. But this is a very, very big deal for our farmers. Mexico and Canada will be opened up a lot more than they are now. And I think there'll be a better spirit between the three countries, which is important for our farmers. The agreement will give our farmers and ranchers far greater access to sell American-grown produce in Mexico and in Canada. The deal includes a substantial increase in our farmers' opportunities to export American wheat, poultry, eggs, and dairy, including milk, butter, cheese, yogurt, and ice cream, to name a few. I want to be very specific. I want to be very specific, right? And many other products, but those products were not really being treated fairly as far as those that worked so hard to produce them, and now they're going to be treated fairly. These measures will support many hundreds of thousands of American jobs. This is also a historic win for American manufacturers and American auto workers who have been treated so badly. We've lost so many jobs over the years under NAFTA. Under the current New Deal, and if you look at the current NAFTA deal, the New Deal is taking care of all of these problems because NAFTA, foreign companies have been allowed to manufacture many of their parts overseas, ship them to Mexico and Canada for assembly, and send their foreign-made cars into the United States with no tax. So we let all our people go. We fire everybody. They make cars. They make products. They make everything in another country. They send them into the United States, no tax. And the cost is very little different. Sometimes it's more for those people that like to talk about cost. With this agreement, we are closing all of these terrible loopholes. They're closed. They're gone. They were a disaster. For example, we are requiring a large portion of every car to be made by high-wage workers, which will greatly reduce foreign outsourcing, which was a tremendous problem, and means more auto parts and automobiles will be manufactured inside the United States. We will be manufacturing many more cars. And our companies won't be leaving the United States, firing their workers and building their cars elsewhere. There's no longer that incentive. Before, under the NAFTA deal, they had that incentive. They have the opposite incentive now. We're not going to be losing our companies. That was, to me, the most important thing. I don't want to see our companies leave and fire our workers, and our workers never get jobs to replace those jobs. Those days are over. Once approved, this will be a new dawn for the American auto industry and for the American auto worker. They will see. They understand. They voted for us in large numbers, even though their leadership always goes Democrat. A couple of them said to me, I don't know how I can do it again. Many of them, the leaders would back Democrats and would tell me, you're going to get most of the votes from union workers. And we got most of the votes from workers, period. But the American auto worker was very much behind what we were doing as one primary aspect. It will transform North America back into a manufacturing powerhouse. If you remember, the previous administration said, we're not going to have manufacturing jobs anymore, essentially. We're not going to make things anymore? No, just the opposite. Some questions? Yes, Steve? Question?
Thank you, sir. You've had tensions with Prime Minister Trudeau.
Yes. How
did that affect your ability to get this deal done?
I don't think it did. He's a professional. I'm a professional. We had very strong tensions. It was just an unfair deal, whether it was Mexico or Canada, and now it's a fair deal for everybody. It's a much different deal. It's a brand new deal. It's not NAFTA redone. It's a brand new deal. I just spoke with him. We have a great relationship, and we're going to work as a partner. Don't forget, the rest of the world is looking to take advantage of us, and as a region, you might say. And we're going to work very closely together with Canada and with Mexico because we'll be able to compete with anybody. We have things that nobody else has. We have energy that nobody else has. We have timber that nobody else has. We have things that no other part of the world has to the extent that we have. So we're going to do very well together. I think we have. There was a lot of tension, I will say, between he and I think more specifically, and it's all worked out. You know when it ended? About 12 o'clock last night.
And you mentioned the...
But he's a good man. He's done a good job, and he loves the people of Canada. Go ahead.
In a tweet this weekend, Mr. President, you said that it's incorrect to say you're limiting the scope of the FBI investigation.
What does that have to do with trade? I don't mind answering the question, but, you know, I'd like to do the trade
It has to do with the
questions,
other
right?
headline in the news, which is the Kavanaugh
I know,
nomination.
but how about talking about trade, and then we'll get to that. We'll do that a little bit later.
Do you think the trade,
Anybody have a trade?
Do you
Go
think
ahead,
your trade
please.
deal will pass through Congress, sir?
I think so, but, you know, if it doesn't, we have lots of other alternatives. But I do think so. I think if they're fair, which is a big question, but if it's fair on both sides, the Republicans love it. Industry loves it. Our country loves it. If it's fair, it will pass. I think it'll pass easily, really easily, because it's a great deal. I mean, NAFTA passed. It's one of the worst deals I've ever seen. Inconceivable that it was made. Fair question. Any other questions on
Thank
trade?
you.
I'll get back to you on the other question.
I'd like to go forward with my Kavanaugh question.
Let's do that later, and but I'll call you a second time. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yes.
Well, there we go. I do have a second question on the Kavanaugh thing. When you get back to it, if you take that,
Let's go.
But you'll take that now.
No.
Okay. Well, the question I
First
have
do trade.
on trade. The question I have on trade. Does this mean the end of tariffs? If you could spell that out
No.
to Canada.
No. It means,
So do you think it'll pass?
No. The steel is staying where it is, and aluminum. But it means we probably, for the most part, won't be having to use tariffs unless we're unable to make a deal with a country. For instance, if we can't make a deal with the European Union, we will respectfully put tariffs on the cars. The United States will take in billions and billions of dollars into its coffers. Isn't that nice? Because you don't hear that.
Only from Carl Sagan.
Okay, yes, Sagan. But it'll take in billions and billions of dollars. But really what's going to happen is they'll make the cars in the United States. This way they don't have to pay the 25 or the 20% tax.
And could you spell
So I
out?
don't think you're going to have to use the tariffs too often, but there will be cases where you have countries that are just absolutely not willing to do what's fair and reciprocal, and in that case they'll pay tariffs. And you know what? The United States will do very well. Either way, we do very well.
So do you think it'll pass in Canada, Mexico, and more importantly,
I don't know.
here in the United
I
States?
can't tell you. All I know is we made a deal. The highly respected presidents, and in the case of Canada, the Prime Minister, are satisfied with the deal. It's good for Canada, good for Mexico. It's good for all three. This is a deal. I'm not touting it. This is good for all three. That's good. And just that fact makes it good for us. But this is good for all three. But this is a much different deal than NAFTA. And this is much more of a reciprocal deal for the United States, which is really good. Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Are you okay on trade? Are you move on to Kavanaugh briefly for the...
No, why don't you just, we'll do the Kavanaugh questions. I mean, you talk about being treated harshly. We'll do that in a couple of, let's finish up trade because you have a lot of people that want to run over to the Wall Street Journal and start writing. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you mentioned, you're going to be signing this agreement, and your counterparts are going to be signing this agreement
Right.
within the next 60 days. Then it's up to Congress.
Right.
You're very confident. I get that. You're a confident guy.
Not at all confident. I'm not.
Well,
I don't know.
explain to
Hey,
me
Congress,
why you think that
tell me
if Congress
you guys
is
going to
controlled
sign
by,
it. Tell me. I think they will.
if Congress is controlled by Democrats,
Could happen. Could
it
be.
could happen.
So
So
they're
then
willing
what?
to
What are the
throw.
prospects?
Yeah, they might be willing to throw one of the great deals for people. And the workers, they may be willing to do that for political, people or political purposes because, frankly, they'll have 2020 in mind. So far, I dream about 2020 when I look at what's going. They have 2020 in mind. They want to do as well as they can, and so trying to reject even great deals like this is a great deal for our country, great for other countries, but it's a great deal for our country and great for our worker. I can't tell you whether or not they will obstruct, whether or not they will resist. I mean, their whole campaign is resist. I see their signs all resist. They don't even know what they're resisting. If you ask them, what are you resisting? Well, let me think about that. They can't ask. They had somebody on this weekend. They said, what are you resisting? And they were unable to answer the question. So, I can't tell you about delay, obstruct, resist, because, right after this election, and I think we're going to do well, although history is not on our side. I guess in history, generally, whoever has the White House doesn't do well in midterms. But the one difference is we have the greatest economy in the history of our country. I think that's a big difference. And that's one of our problems, too, because people that went out and voted for me, and they would be voting for me if I was on the ticket, but I'm not on the ticket. But Congress is on the ticket. And I try and tell my people that's the same thing as me.
Do you believe that the trade agreement will be a major issue in the midterm elections?
Well, it shouldn't be. Look, it's a good agreement. These people, you know, when I first did it, they said, oh, why don't you just extend NAFTA? They have no idea about business. Just extend NAFTA. That would have been a disaster. We're losing $100 billion a year in deficits, at least to Mexico under NAFTA. But just look at the results, and a substantial amount to Canada, although a lot of people try and say it's pretty much even. It's not even. We lose a substantial amount. So, you know, I think it's a very hard thing to defend, but that's all right. Look, I understand the world of politics, I think, as well as anybody. I haven't been doing it that long, but I actually have been, because I've been doing it on the other side. And I do understand, and, you know, they can take the greatest thing ever done and try and make it sound as bad as possible. But this one's tough. This one, people are coming out for this one and saying, that's incredible what we've been able to do. Yes, behind you, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that you've answered several questions on trade, I'd like to turn to Judge Kavanaugh.
Do you have,
President,
excuse me, do you have a question on trade? We'll do one or two more questions on trade.
You answered several questions
on trade. Okay, don't do
trade.
that. That's not nice.
Mr. President,
and besides that, somebody is before you. Excuse me, don't do that. Do you have a question on trade?
You answered several questions.
Do you have
on trade.
a question on trade?
My question is on Judge
Kavanaugh. Okay, please, yes.
You said
please.
the FBI should interview whoever that they believe is appropriate. Does that include Julie Swetnick, the third accuser? And can you promise to release the full findings
give me
from
your
the
question,
FBI
please.
after they finish their report, Mr. President?
Give me your question, please.
Mr. President,
Give her the mic, please.
Thank you very much. Was border security or funding
Yes.
for the wall discussed during the negotiation,
Yes.
and who will pay for the wall?
Yes, the wall. We're getting $1.6 billion for the wall this year. We got 1.6. We have about $3.2 billion in the wall. We're doing a lot of work. People don't realize. I don't really want to talk about it because I can build it quickly at one time, which is what I want.
But
we've been building it over the last year and a half with $3.2 billion, 1.6, and we now have another 1.6. And I've got a big decision to make after the election as to whether or not we go for it. Because you know what? Border security to the people of our country, very important. The wall is a big factor in border security. And I really believe that the people of our country, they want the wall and they want border security. They don't want open borders like the Democrats want to have. They don't want crime pouring into our country. They don't want MS-13 pouring into our country. They don't want that. And I really think I have a very big decision to make sometime right after the election, very quickly, because you know what comes due after the election. Do I want to do it before the election? Personally, yes, but I don't want to do that for a different reason, because I have some very fine people that are running in close races, and it may affect them and it may not. It may be good for them. I happen to think it would be good for them. But border security for our country, our people want security. The women of our country, they want security. They don't want to have thousands of people pouring across the border. And I'll tell you what, they want to have ICE, because ICE walks into MS-13 and these gangs, and they treat them like it's just another day in the office. They're rough and they're tough and they love our country. And I'm treating ICE good, and I'm treating our law enforcement good. And the Democrats don't want to take care of our law enforcement. And the Democrats don't want to take care of our military. So we are going to have a decision to make sometime right after, very close to after the election is over, and that will be on border security and the wall, but border security. The wall's a big factor. Okay, let's go. Come on. You want to, I guess, get off trade. I don't know. People are falling asleep with trade. I think it's, to me, it's the most exciting thing you can talk about, right, Joni? Right? All right, let's go. Come on.
Thank you, Mr. President. In a tweet this weekend, you said it's incorrect to say that you're limiting the scope of the FBI investigation into Judge Kavanaugh. But your own statement on Friday made it very clear. You said this investigation must be limited in scope. So which is it?
Well, no, I didn't say anything on Friday. What I said is let the Senate decide. Whatever they want to do is okay with me. And also the FBI. I think the FBI should do what they have to do to get to the answer. At the same time, just so we all understand, this is our 7th investigation of a man who has really, you know, you look at his life until this happened, what a change he's gone through, what his family's gone through, the trauma for a man that's never had any accusation, he's never had a bad statement about him. He's led, I think he was #1 in his class at Yale. He was #1 in his law school at Yale. And then what he's gone through over the last 3 weeks is incredible. So I want the FBI, this is now their 7th investigation. So it's not like they're, just starting. I want them to do a very comprehensive investigation, whatever that means according to the senators and the Republicans and the Republican majority. I want them to do that. I want it to be comprehensive. I actually think it's a good thing for Judge Kavanaugh. I think it's actually a good thing, not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. Now, with that being said, I'd like it to go quickly. And the reason I'd like it to go quickly, very simple. It's so simple. Because it's unfair to him at this point. What his wife is going through, what his beautiful children are going through is not describable. It's not describable. It's not fair. I think it's fair to do it to me because, I've been going from day one. I've been from long before I got to office. You've been doing it. It's almost became, I think for me, it's like a part of my job description to handle this crap. But as far as this is a man that this is not from his world. And you know what? If they're not going to want him, and I think that would be a shame, I'm with him all the way. A charge made or said to have occurred 36 years ago, and nothing happened since. And look, I feel badly for all parties. I feel badly for everybody. I feel badly for our country. This is so bad for our country. But I will tell you, I watched those senators on the Democrat side, and I thought it was a disgrace, and partially because I know them. I know them too well. And you know what? They are not angels.
Are you saying your White House has put no limitations on?
No, my White House is doing
FBI
whatever
can
the
speak
senators
to
want. No,
who they should interview?
You don't understand what I'm saying. You do understand. You just don't want to report it that way. Just so you understand, my White House will do whatever the senators want. I'm open to whatever they want. The one thing I want is speed. Now, they started, I believe, on Friday. Could have even been a little bit earlier than that, but they started. They have worked round the clock on Saturday, Sunday. They're working right now. They're covering a lot of territory. This is the 7th investigation of Judge Kavanaugh, number 7. This isn't number 1. They started on Friday. They worked all weekend. They've gone late into the evenings. The FBI is really working hard, and they're putting in a lot of hours. So hopefully they can come up with what everybody's looking for. But no, I'm guided by the Senate. I want to make the Senate happy because ultimately they're making the judgment. I'm not making the judgment. I've already made my judgment. The Senate is making a judgment on Judge Kavanaugh. That's a very important thing to do. Yes, go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
Just for clarity, so that it's clear. In fact, it's up to you to instruct the FBI what to do.
It is up to me. It is up to me. But I'm instructing them as per what I feel the Senate wants. The Senate's making this decision, and I'm instructing them as per what the Senate is looking for.
Just for clarity, will you instruct the White House counsel, Don McGahn, to give the FBI free rein to interview whomever they feel is necessary?
Well, I have so instructed him, and I did it again over the weekend because I see the press was, I don't want to use the word in this case, misleading. It's a much more complex subject than anybody would understand and than most people understand. But essentially, I have done that. But I did also say within the bounds of what the Senate wants. We don't want to go on to use an expression often used by me, we don't want to go on a witch hunt, do we?
So just to be clear, should the FBI interview all 3 of Brett Kavanaugh's accusers?
It wouldn't bother me at all. Now, it depends. I don't know all 3 of the accusers.
All 3.
Certainly, I imagine they're going to interview 2. The third one I don't know much about, but it wouldn't bother me at all. I've been heard that the third one has, I have no idea if this is true, has very little credibility. If there is any credibility, interview the third one. But I want it to be done quickly because it's unfair to the family and to the judge. It's unfair. It's so unfair to his kids and his wife.
How about for the accusers? Has this process been fair to them?
Well, certainly we gave the doctor a tremendous time, which is great. She spoke well, but, you know, there are some questions that haven't been answered, like what year was it? What day was it? Where was it? Do you know the location? Do you know the house? A lot of different things. People are saying, well, you know, what's going on? With all of that, you cannot say that we've done anything but be respectful. And I do, and I respect her position very much. I respect her position very much. I believe, and again, this is Republican senators and this is the Senate, I believe they've been very respectful to the doctor, Dr. Ford.
Isn't that why the FBI should interview all of them to exonerate Brett Kavanaugh? In your
Yeah,
opinion?
Peter, I think the FBI should interview anybody that they want within reason. But you have to say within reason. They should interview, but they should also be guided, and I'm being guided, by what the senators are looking for, because they have to make the choice. Go ahead, now you can go.
Should Brett Kavanaugh be interviewed by the FBI?
I think so. I think it's fine if they do. I don't know. That's up to them. I think that he spoke very conclusively and very well. I think it's been a very rough period of time. I guarantee he's never had a period of time like this. Go ahead.
Mr. President, if the FBI does find something and Brett Kavanaugh falls, is there a plan B?
I don't want to talk about Plan B because I hope that he gets approved. I hope that the report comes out like it should, like I really think it should. I think it will. I hope. But look, I'm waiting just like you. Certainly, if they find something, I'm going to take that into consideration. Absolutely. I have a very open mind.
We've got to do a better job of getting across that America is freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion,